The executive board members urged me to delay because of the traffic situation. So I certainly understand. I want to welcome you to Crimefighters. My name is Herb Magri. I happen to be the elected state president of Crimefighters. To my left and right are the executive board members, and as you know, behind me are the candidates running for a very, very important position, Sheriff of Orleans Parish. Which is very important. So without any further ado, we're going to ask for the invitation by our executive board member, Bishop Ricky Sinclair of the Miracle Place Church. Will you all please rise? Bishop.
Let us pray. The great God of heaven and earth, we give you all the glory and all the honor and all the praise tonight. God, as we think about New Orleans, Lord, and the leadership of this great city, Lord, the largest city in Louisiana, God, we ask you that you will intervene now in these elections, God. We pray for our sheriff, Lord. We pray for our mayor. We ask you to supernaturally intervene, God. Put the right person in the right offices for you and your glory. Now, God, bless New Orleans, we pray, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And everybody says, Amen.
Now, please remain standing. We're going to have the pledge of allegiance administered by the Sergeant, Captain High.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I really want to thank everybody here for coming to our debate tonight. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, just a few rules. I hope everybody got one of these programs. If you didn't, raise your hand. We'll try to get one to you. Now, this is not a forum. This is an actual debate. There's a lot of difference between a debate and a forum. Now, a lot of people said to me basically, wait, sir, please. Okay, please. We're trying to talk up here. Anyway, what I'm going to ask you to understand is a debate, not a forum. This will probably be one of the only few debates for mayor or for sheriff of Orleans Parish. That being said, you have little cards out there. Everybody got one. You don't have one? We'll be glad to give you one. And this is where you will take and mark your question down. And the question you ask has to be for all the candidates. We're not going to discriminate and say, oh no, we're just going to pick on one or ask one. No. The question you ask will be asked of all candidates. Okay. So this is your opportunity now, ladies and gentlemen, to really hear a real debate. I want to tell you quickly about Crimefighters. None of us are salaried. Let me repeat that. I got several calls today. In fact, even from some media, we have always been a pro bono organization, free. Nobody gets a salary, not one red cent. In fact, we've asked people to understand that. We've been in, as an organization, an LLC, for 33 years and 8 months. Okay, we have approximately 18,000 members statewide. We have a staff of attorneys. Some of them are sitting up here tonight. I'm going to ask this gentleman that have helped our victims so much and have received nothing except praises for doing a good job. Of course, let's see where our good friend, Attorney Marty Malley is. Marty, raise your hand, please. I just want to introduce the crowd that you'd give your time freely to the victims of violent crime.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see everyone here in attendance. It's awesome. This is so very important. It's important to our organization. It's important to the citizens.
Thank you, Marty. Marty, I'm thankful. No.
I said I talked.
He's not listening.
Did I talk too long?
We're coordinating our time.
I'm just joking, okay.
Okay, thank you, one for all the work you've done. Also, I want to recognize Eric Scametta, one of our other attorneys. Say a few words for us, Brother Eric.
Sure. Welcome to the meeting tonight. I'm Eric Spermetta. I'm also, besides a private attorney, I serve as your public service commissioner for District 1, and glad to be here, glad to continually support the organization.
Okay, do we have any other attorneys? Is Mark Lane here tonight? Okay, I want to thank these attorneys. And does any of our executive board members wish to say anything? Okay, anything, Carol, David, Marty? No. Okay, so anyway, tonight you can also have the opportunity of joining our free organization. No dues, no initiation fee, and we represent the victims of violent crime free. And God knows we have enough crime. If you listen to most chiefs of police, I've never seen in a major city where chief of police says, my crime is increasing. They always say the crime is decreasing. Don't believe what you hear all the time. Okay? We've had some violent outbreaks the past couple of years, and a couple of weeks, in fact, very violent. And I do want to thank all the candidates for being here and having the courage to step up and let the people ask the questions that they need. That being said, we're going to start with the sheriff alphabetically, and the rules of debate are very clear. So each candidate will have a 5-minute opening statement. Let's start off with the incumbent sheriff by alphabetical order, Susan Hudson. Ms. Hudson.
Okay, good evening. I'm Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson. Honored to be here tonight. I thank the Crimefighters for inviting us all for this first debate. I think we've had some forums, but this is our first debate. So glad to be here. I want to talk to you about my tenure. For the 3.25 years I've been in office, just 3.25 years. So let's take you back to 2022. I come into office in May. There was no transition to get into office. So when we got in there, we had to get in, dig in, figure out everything that was going on. By the way, can you hear me okay? All right. Get in there, find out everything that was going on, and then start executing our plan. When I ran for sheriff, I told this community, I promised this community that I would do 3 things. I said, number 1, I'm going to take care of the deputies who work for us. And the deputies had not had a raise in 5 years when I got into office, and they were making $15.47 an hour. To work on a tier with 60 people accused of violent felonies, 1 deputy could do that. The training academy was not accredited and it wasn't doing well. They did not have radios on the pods. They did not have body-worn cameras. When they worked in the streets for details, they did not have ballistic vests. So we were not taking care of the people who take care of us. One of the first things I was able to do is get them a raise. I got them 2 raises in consecutive years. So they're up to about $18.50. That's still not enough. You can go do lifeguarding and make more than that. So we need a pay plan. I come to the city council every year. I intend to make this a part of the campaign debate during this cycle. The city council and the mayor have to plan with the parish offices. They do not do that. We go to the crucible, which is the city council budget meeting, and we all fight for a couple of dollars. And that's not planning. We don't plan for 5, 10, anything. We don't plan to take care of our buildings, to take care of our deputies, to have pay plans. We don't plan about what we're going to do for the city. But back to the deputies. I said, promise number 1, I'm going to take care of it. I've done that. Promise number 2, I said I'm going to do something with those in our custody. You may or may not know this, but because of the way our system works, and it moves so slowly, people can stay in custody up to 9 years before they go to trial. The average is around 2, but it could be 5, 6. I've got you here in my custody for all this time. I've got to do something with you while you're there. So I've got to give you a second shot. And if I don't give you something to do, what do you think people do who are in custody who don't have anything to do? You think it's good things? It's bad things. Especially if you're facing many years in prison, you probably don't have a great education, and I am the largest provider of mental health in this state. At any given time, 600 to 800 people are on our mental health docket. That means being diagnosed and getting medication every day. So when I've got you here, number one, I got to give you great treatment, medical and mental health care. We're under federal court orders because the former sheriff did not provide proper medical and mental health care. I brought in a new provider, and that new provider also now provides addiction treatment, which was not being done before I got into office. So now we're also treating mental health, addiction, and we're also treating the trauma that gets people into jail. When kids grow up seeing violence in the streets, do you think they do the opposite? They don't. They do what they learn. So we've been taking care of those in our custody. Promise number 2 that I've kept. Promise number 3, I said I'm going to bring this organization into this century. We have a jail management system that has, many of you will know this, a black screen and green prompts on it. Now, all the young people are like, what are you talking about? Yeah, so no, this is old technology. We're coming into this century now, have a new jail management system, which will be here this fall. We've upgraded all our systems so we can have a smart jail, and I can provide real data to you, the decision makers in this community, so you can see my performance, because I'm betting on the men and women of this department. And along the way, I've taken on Mardi Gras, I've taken on juveniles, and a 1,600 population. When I only have, when I got into office, 45% staffing, and I'm now at 60%. So everything I promised this community I would do, I've done. We'll talk more about the escape and how that happened, but it was a result of not investing in the building and not investing in our deputies, and that's what caused May 16th to happen. Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson, I'm honored to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, next candidate will be Ernest, please, Senior. Ernest is not here. Let's go then to Robert Bob Murray, former Orleans Parish Sheriff, Criminal Sheriff, and Security Consultant. Mr. Murray.
I want to thank the Crimefighters for inviting us. This has always been a great organization to deal with. And I appreciate all of you coming out, because this is a very important race. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bob Murray. We all know, all of us sitting here, knows that stupidity equals doing the same thing over and over again and looking for a different result. This race is about 2 things: the security of our jail, the security of our city. When Ms. Hudson came in, she inherited a brand new building, brand new, state of the art. And what basically occurred was this: Ms. Hudson refuses to go inside the building. And to be very honest with you, I can't blame her, because what goes on in that jail is just a part of life that happens in any jail. The 40 years ago, when I started in the correction system, I came under 2 of the best chiefs there, Chief Rudy and Chief Weaver. I was in the old building. And in that old building, you saw the same thing as you see in the new building. You see rape, you see spit, you see shit. You see it all. You pull dead people out of the cell, people throw they vomit on you. And that's just the way a real jail works. And for those of you who, please don't misunderstand, for those of you who think this is just a joke, it is really not. When you have a sheriff has to be able to go in the cell. They have to be able to understand what goes on in the jail. The sheriff is the face of the jail. The sheriff is like the firefighter who runs to the fire with their brain cells. You can't run away from the fire. So if you're the sheriff, you can't run away from it. What we have here is a sheriff who has let the building go into neglect, is what has occurred. And if you're not up to that, then you shouldn't run for this seat because no one's making you do it. In addition to that, if you have a sheriff who doesn't understand it takes 3 years to know that all your locks are broke, we have a serious problem. As your next sheriff, I'm going to do 3 things. My first 100 days. As a graduate of Southern University and Concordia University, before I got my collegiate education, I got a street education. And a street education is very important. I think everyone knows that. You combine my street education with my collegiate education, and that's what I'm here to do. 40 years in security, 40 years in corrections. So what you have here is a situation that is out of control. My first 100 days, I'm going to hire 100 security personnel. Already licensed by the state, already been verified by the state. They passed the drug test, the whole 9 yards. It doesn't take 3 years to understand you do not have to be post-certified to work in the jail. That security law says you miss work every day. Every day. Secondly, I would terminate this 12-hour work shift because it's terrible. It was like that 40 years ago. It's time that we give our deputies a break. I'm going to eliminate that. The third thing I'm going to do is electrify the fence. It's not rocket science to electrify a fence because they would have never got over the fence. That fence would have knocked their asses out. Simple as that. It's not rocket science. And so what we have here is a sheriff who's going to think of every reason until you vote for her. And she could not make those 3 changes in 3 years. If she had took 1 year to do each thing, it would have been done. My name is Bob Martin. I've been politically active in the community all my life, 45 years. I'm the old guy on the stage. That's why I'm the old guy on the stage. And with that being said, when you elect me, you will have a sheriff who is not afraid to go in the cell. Because it's very intimidating. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. But you gotta have the hard head to be able to do it. You want the job, be a sheriff, go in the cell, do your job, and we're gonna do it right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bob Murray. I'm number 3 on the ballot, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you again to the audience. If you want any questions, simply fill out a card, raise your hand, we'll have somebody certainly take that question up here. Now, let's go to our next candidate, the Honorable Julian Parker, retired judge, Orleans Parish Criminal District Court. Judge Parker.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Julian Parker. I've lived in New Orleans all my life. I went to Abramson, Xavier University, Southern University Law School, and Michigan State Graduate School. I've been married for 44 years. I have 3 sons. 2 of my sons are with me tonight. One of them is the New Orleans policeman, John. And I started at the district attorney's office in 1983. My specialty at the district attorney's office was narcotics distribution cases and homicides. I set a courthouse record by trying 76 felony jury trials in 1 year. It had never been done before, it's never been done since. When I left the DA's office, I went to the United States Attorney's Office, where I specialized in dismantling organized crime groups and drug distribution organizations. For those of you who are a little bit older than some of the youngsters, you may remember the Glen Minster drug trafficking organization. That was my case. There were over 25 members of that organization, 9 went to trial, and 9 were convicted, and they all received life sentences for everything from tax evasion to RICO homicide. I worked with Dutch Boreal's law firm for 6 years, and I learned quite a bit from him, and I learned a lot about politics. From there, I worked for a firm that did admiralty and toxic exposure litigation. So I've been on both sides, the criminal side and the civil side. I ran for judge 30 years ago, and I never had opposition except the first time. So I've only been in the voting poll one time. I was the first drug court judge in the state of Louisiana. The drug court was an 18-month program where the probation said to see me twice a month. They had to take random drug tests, and we helped them to get off of drugs and become productive citizens. It was an alternative to incarceration. It was very successful. The average amount of drug addicts that you find in jail is about 65%, but only 11% receive drug treatment. The things that we learned over the years at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the District Attorney's Office, and the court, and the things I learned from Dutch, we're going to put into the Sheriff's Office, including my 9-point plan to secure the jail. And I'll get to that later this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Our next candidate will be the Constable of the 2nd District City Court in Orleans Parish, and that's going to be, of course, Honorable Edwin Mark Shorty, Jr.
Good evening, everyone. All right. So my name is Edwin. I'll step away from the back. All right. Hear me just fine? All right, great. My name is Edwin Shorty, and I currently serve as your constable in Algiers. A little bit of background about myself. I'm from the lower 9th Ward, went to Lawless High School, and then I went to Southern University at New Orleans. While I was at Southern University at New Orleans, there was a program for college students to work in the jail, and I worked my way through undergrad in the jail. While I was in the jail, working in Temple 1 and 2 under Chief Rudy, I met a young lady. I ended up marrying that young lady. That young lady was not an inmate. She was a nurse. My wife and I met while we both worked in Temple 1 and 2. After finishing undergrad and leaving the jail, I went to Southern University Law School. Started practicing law right after I was admitted to the bar in 2003. I still had my own law practice. One of the only folks up here who can say they started their own business. In 2012, I ran for, was elected for constable in Algiers. And for those who don't know what the constable does, it's different based on jurisdictions. So in this jurisdiction, I handle all of the civil process that comes out of the city court. So I have the West Bank, Lavoisier has the East Bank. If you remember, after Katrina, the civil sheriff and the criminal sheriff were merged. So basically, the civil responsibilities for the sheriff's office are what I do for a smaller court. So I've won re-election as constable twice without opposition. In 2018, Governor Edwards appointed me to the board of my alma mater, where I'm the former chair of Southern University Board of Supervisors. So I know a little bit about higher education, a little bit about government funding. What do I think I can do differently than the individual sitting up here? Well, one, I want to get back to having the sheriff's office assist the New Orleans Police Department. We realize that the New Orleans Police Department is short. They're going to be short for a significant period of time. There are things that the sheriff's office can do to assist the New Orleans Police Department, like traffic stops. It terrifies me to drive around the city of New Orleans because no one does traffic stops. And I don't blame the PD for that. They're shorthanded. They've got to focus on those violent crimes. But if you start doing traffic stops, that helps bring down a crime rate. That also helps investigate other crimes. Quality of life issues. Some time ago, the city of New Orleans approached me as constable to do some quality of life things, issuing summonses to people who violate trash ordinances and other things on their property, to issue them summonses. The city didn't make it attractive for me to do it because basically they wanted me to spend $10,000 and make $5,000, and I said it doesn't make sense. But as the sheriff, I think we would have the workforce to be able to do that. What are the things I think I can do to recruit? The sheriff talked about paying people more and how the prison break may have happened because folks didn't make enough and they're watching too many inmates. Well, when I worked there, I made $7 an hour, and I watched 156 inmates most of the time by myself, and we didn't have any escapes. I think this is about whether or not you feel that your job is safe, that you are safe when you are at work, and that's about recruitment. I think we reinstituted the college program that worked very well when I was there. It was a great job for a college student. I think we reinstituted the About Face program. There was a program that allowed individuals who were stationed here in the military to work in the jail. They got corrections officer training, and they also worked there. And we really got to look at the 12-hour shift. So 60 to 70% of the sheriff's current workforce is female. If you offer some flexibility with that schedule to allow folks who may want to drop their kids off at school, they may want to pick their kids up, give them that flexibility and say, I want you to work for me, but maybe you can't do the 12-hour shift, I think you can increase the workforce. So those are just a few of the things I think we can institute that allows the workforce to increase, which also causes the deputies to be safer and therefore causes the inmates to be safer. Some of this stuff is not rocket science. This consent decree that we've been out of, that she's had 3.5 years to try and get out of and still can't get out of, is because you're not reporting the use of violence appropriately. You're not doing the things that you need to do. And you've had 3 years, and after 3 years you still can't get it done. It's time to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Constable. Now let's go with our last, certainly not least, but alphabetically, that's how we went. The former chief of the New Orleans Police Department, Michelle Woodford.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Woodford, and I'm a native daughter to the city. I'm a graduate of St. Mary's Academy. I graduated from Southern University at New Orleans with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in political science, and a master's degree in criminal justice with a concentration in law enforcement. I am a proven leader with uncompromising integrity. From deputy sheriff, when I started working for the sheriff's office in 1989, to becoming a New Orleans police officer, to becoming your first female superintendent to lead the New Orleans Police Department. I am the only candidate who has the knowledge, training, and experience to fix the things that are wrong inside the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Department. When I was your interim superintendent, I authored and implemented a strategic plan. That plan addressed reducing violent crime, recruitment and retention, community engagement, technology, and consent decree compliance. With that plan, we brought crime down 25%. We brought carjackings down 45%. We tripled officer recruitment. We hired 105 new police recruits in 2023 and 104 civilian employees in 2023, tripling the amount before. We hadn't hired that many people in like 6 years. How did we do it? A robust recruitment effort. That strategic plan also addressed violent crime. We partnered with our local, state, and federal partners. We went in certain areas where we used data analysis and saw where violent crime was going on, and we deployed those different agencies into those different areas, and that's how our crime began to see a decrease. Recruitment, we did everything. We partnered with NOPD, the New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation. We partnered with the Baptist Seminary. We started giving testing on site, but we also gave incentives. Incentives in pay, incentives in training, and absolute upward mobility inside the agency. the chance for people to be promoted without favoritism, but fairness. We also had some technology going on. We had some drones. We started implementing a new system, a case management system. We did excellent. We're moving along in a federal consent decree. Because in order to move along in a federal consent decree, you have to have qualified monitors. You have to have a qualified compliance team made up of auditors, policy writers, and attorneys to move along in the federal consent decree. Right now, the NOPD is in the sustaining phase. The Sheriff's Office is still not even at 50% compliance. And it's been 12 years. Community engagement. We brought back officer friendly. We had the Junior Citizens Police Academy. We had the Citizens Police Academy. A lot of community engagement. And as your next sheriff, what I ensure is this: that I will bring integrity, accountability, and transparency through focusing on jail improvements, recruitment and retention, rehabilitation, reunification, and reentry. Because you see, the public has lost trust and confidence in the Sheriff's Department. And we need a leader who's going to restore that trust. We need a leader who will commit to using her education, her expertise in law enforcement, and common sense to bring safety to our jail and all of New Orleans. My name is Michelle Woodfork. I'm number 6 on the ballot, and I'd love to have your vote.
Hello, my name is Jeff Cruere, host of Ringside Politics on WGSO. Thank you, Herb, for letting me be one of the co-moderators on the executive board of Crimefighters. And this is a question for all of the candidates. I think all of us know that it was a national embarrassment to have the escape of 10 prisoners from our Orleans Parish prison. There's still one that is on the loose. So the question would be, how did that happen? How can we make sure that that doesn't happen again? It seemed like the locks weren't working. It seemed like there weren't enough personnel in place. There was only one person on duty. He went out for a food break. How did they break through the wall? And how did so many go on the loose undetected for so long? So I think there are a lot of questions. People are concerned. And we want to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that prisoners stay behind bars where they need to be. So the candidates have 2 minutes to answer the question. And let's start, if we could, with Ms. Woodford. So basically, how can the escape occur? And how can we make sure that it doesn't happen again?
Because we don't quite know, it's an ongoing investigation. We don't know exactly what happened with the investigation. From face value, what I see happen is a couple of things. Poor leadership, poor management, and competent leadership. No supervision. Not enough staff, insufficient staff. That's what led to this escape. You know, our sheriff is going to say that this couldn't happen on its own, and maybe she's right because we don't know the outcome. But in order to run a safe jail, you have to have enough people working in the jail. And in order to do that, you have to have a robust recruitment effort. How do you do that? Again, you have to have incentives. You have to offer training. You have to offer an increase in salary. You have to offer upward mobility inside the agency. This happened because there was no supervision. Had there been supervision, we wouldn't have known 12 hours later or 14 hours later that these people were missing from inside the facility. We would have had our sheriff tell us in a timely manner that these people were escaped. not hours and hours later. The problem is poor management and poor leadership in this facility. And it's time for a new leader, a proven leader, one who gets results, one who supervised over 1,250 people, a budget of $166 million. We were successful and we're fiscally sound, unlike the current state of the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Mr. Edwin Short.
Somebody jumping at the bit. There's an old saying that, it's the best time to lock the barn doors after the horses ran away. Does it really matter to you how it happened? It happened. There's going to be an investigation. They're going to figure out exactly what happened. What's important to you and what's important to me is that it took 7 hours for them to realize that it happened. They didn't realize that 10 folks ran out. I got in trouble with the sheriff when I said they ran out the front door last time. The front door, the back door, the kitchen door, whichever door they ran out of, we saw them on TV running out. They ran out and they were gone, and one of them still gone. So it doesn't matter how we got to the point that they ran out, it matters that they ran out and we didn't know for 7 hours. Then it matters to you that the first time victims of these criminals found out was from watching the news. And that is ridiculous. It took you 7 hours to realize they left. Then it took you 2.5 hours to notify everyone. It took you hours to notify the New Orleans Police Department chief, state police, the DA who prosecuted these people, the judges who sentenced them, and most importantly, the victims. And what do we always say? If you see something, say something. So we ask people to say something. They said something. These folks got prosecuted, and then you don't even send anyone to protect them. You don't even notify them. They find out by watching WGN or WWL or whatever. That is the real issue. How they got out will be resolved in an investigation. But the lack of leadership, the lack of supervision, the lack of accountability around an escaping is the real problem. And then to say that you feel that it was done by those individuals who are running against you shows also a lack of competency.
Thank you. All right, next up, Judge Julian Parker.
Well, everybody says we need more deputies, we need more this, we need more that. All it takes is money. We haven't heard anything about where this money's coming from. I have some ideas. But for right now, let's talk about what could have been done and what I will do to make sure this doesn't happen again. And it's not going to cost anything extra. Number one, we're going to hire a full-time watchman to supervise these supposedly busted locks. Number two, you don't house high-risk inmates on the first floor. You house them on the 4th floor. If they want to escape, they can tie sheets together and drop down like Jimmy Cagle. Number three, high-risk inmates and inmates waiting transportation to the Department of Corrections are going to be housed in a special housing unit. The best guards and the best deputies are going to be assigned to the housing unit. Staff and deputies shall not leave their posts until they're relieved by another staff member or a deputy. This applies for meal breaks. We keep hearing about somebody left to go get food. That's what they said the morning that it happened, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours later, that it was. And I tell you that that was the most expensive lunch in the history of the city of New Orleans. Because it was $250,000 a week to send all these federal agents, police, and sheriffs to go look for these people. Video monitors will be constantly monitored. Bed checks will be made every 60 minutes. Every deputy sheriff's going to be issued a flashlight. If they don't have a flashlight, I'll buy it for them. The loading docks are going And finally, deputies shall supervise civilian maintenance crews at all times when they're working in the jail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up is Mr. Robert Bob Murray.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you've heard for the most part is all false. Now listen to me very clearly. Ms. Hudson is an administrator, and she's been a great one. She's been great. Her career has been great. Ms. Woodfolk is the same. She's been a great administrator. What you have is two people for the past 15 years of their careers have sat behind the desk. You cannot be an effective sheriff sitting behind a desk. You have to have the boots on the ground. You have to know what's going on in your jail. If you don't run to the fire, who else is? So basically what I'm saying, this is what it's going to come down to. Does Ms. Hudson take 3 years to find out locks somewhere? And I'll tell you why it took that long. Because she was around the corner in that nice little beautiful building on the 3rd or 4th floor somewhere, and that's where she was. She's not going to come around the corner and go into jail. And I can assure you, because my name is Bob Murray, Ms. Woodfolk is going to do the same. And why are they going to do the same? They're going to both do the same because they're trained to do that. They're trained to delegate from behind the desk. And that's okay for some people. But as your next sheriff, a sheriff cannot delegate from behind the desk. You have to go inside the building. You have to inspect the chairs. You have to inspect the difficulties and the deficiencies that are in that jail. I worked in the jail. I've been in the cells. I know what it takes to do that. But I can assure you, an administrator is not going to do that. How long did it take to think about, let me electrify this fence. Let me electrify the fence. Touch it, you're going to fall. How long? Does it take you 3 years to know you have a broken lock in your house? No, it doesn't. So the bottom line is, I'm going to make my office in a jail cell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Next up, Sheriff Hunt.
Correct. Things. What I told Shorty at the last meeting was just tell the truth, which he again got up here and failed to do. Let me tell you what incompetence is. Incompetence is talking about something you don't know what you're talking about, but pretending that you do, because you ain't never been in there and don't know what you see, and never had anything to do with this. A deputy cannot run the jail. The jail is not just the jail. It is the mini city. It runs from Broad Street all the way to Norman Francis. There's a power plant, a water treatment, a kitchen warehouse, a mechanic shop, all the things you need to do to support this city. And all the deputies in the courts and kitchen warehouse, wherever they're at, all have to support that enterprise. So what happened was when I got into office in May of 2022, we started assessing just like I talked about. In July of 2022, I wrote a letter to the federal court judge on the consent decree, to the city council and the mayor, and I said, there are broken locks. This jail, this state-of-the-art jail was built so that it could be dismantled. You can take pieces off to make weapons. They can pull wires down to make fires because the lights weren't built right. The fire suppression system, they can pull that off and flood the cells. It was built incorrectly. There are no cameras in the pipe chases, so you can't see who's around in there doing whatever they're doing, which is what led to this escape. So what I told them is these locks are broken. I came to city council every year, I told them the same thing. Right before the escape, I went to the capital budget and I said, we've got to fix these locks. It's $500,000 per housing unit. There are 24 housing units in the jail. Do the math. The money has to be put forward. When Chief was when she was the chief of the interim chief of the New Orleans Police Department, the city council gave them whatever they want. They don't give that money to the New Orleans Sheriff's Office. NOPD was $42 million over budget last year, not us. The money goes to them for incentives, pay raises. We got none of that. That's what caused this breakout.
Thank you, Sheriff Hudson.
I'm going to try to move this along quite a bit. I'm going to defer to the executive board next. We're going to bring the mic over to you all. I want to start off with Joan Brooks. I want to add that Ms. Brooks is a resident of Orleans Parish, and she has quite a few, I think, very good ideas regarding the sheriff's office. Ms. Brooks, would you please ask your question?
Please use the microphone if you would.
My foundation is with the interest of education for the people who are incarcerated. I would like to ask which of you gentlemen and ladies would consider, while you have 24/7 televisions at your system, would you consider putting only educational material on your system rather than some of the other information that I've seen coming through?
And we're trying to change up the range of answers. Why don't we start with you, Constable Shorty? 1 minute.
I think there's a place for education. I think there's a place for educational program in the facility, but if we were to do only educational programming, I think we'd have a significant problem. I just think it's already a very violent place. You've got to give them some outlet. And if they don't have an outlet at some point, then you're going to have more problems. And my focus, my concern is the safety of the deputies. And if they are violent, then you put your deputies at risk. Sometimes they need the Bluetooth to be on something so their mind isn't on causing confusion and trouble, breaking locks and doing all of the other things that they do that have led to the situation that we find ourselves in. So I think there's a place for educational program, but a non-stop 24-hour educational program would be problematic in my view.
I would have a consideration.
We got this out. Good.
I would have a consideration that they can have beneficial programs that would be, for example, the sports programs, whatever, when they have earned it. But the bottom line is these folks are incarcerated probably because they were not properly educated. And there are so many opportunities through the television system to offer.
Let's go to Bob Murray, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are convicts. They don't give a damn about no education. Let me make sure you understand this. I will be laser focused on the security of our city, the security of the jail, and the security of our deputies. If they wanted an education, they should have went to Delgado before they got caught jacking the car. My focus is not education. That's not what it is. We are a penal institution. P-E-N-A-L. And that's what you're going to get out of the Murray administration. They can go to school when they get back up to Angola when I ship them up north. Thank you so much.
Judge Parker.
Thank you for your question. Criminologists will tell you that what leads to fights in the jail is low morale. There was a bill before the legislature years ago to take the TVs out of Angola. And I remember Burl King, who was a warden at the time, and I asked him about that. And what he said is, we've got to give them something to watch on TV that they enjoy watching, what is mostly sports. When I talked to fellows who had cases in my section, they would talk about the basketball games, the football games, the Saints. That's what you need to have on TV to cut down the fights. Yes, some educational program will be all right, but a steady diet of educational programs is going to unfortunately lead to low morale. They're not going to want to sit there and watch Sesame Street all day. They want to see an action movie, a comedy, and the specialty sports. Thank you.
Sheriff Susan Hudson.
6, 7, 8, up to 9 years. We got to do something with the one we've got here. And our survey of those in our custody tells us, number one, we can see education ranging from only the 5th grade on up to high school. We rarely see college, mostly in that range. So we know we have to do something for them. And so we have the Travis Hill School that was started by the former Sheriff Gusman. It's a Orleans Parish School Board school. We also have high set and GED in there as well. You can get a TWIC card, so you can have a job when you get out. We teach barbering. There's a number of things we teach, but we introduced tablets in February of this year. And those tablets allow them to have religious training, some peace about what's going on with them. There's some educational material on it, but we're working on getting high set in there so that everybody can learn on the tablets, because we have so few deputies to get them to class. But those are, when we introduced tablets, it cut violence by 50%.
Any other board members?
Chief Michelle, my apologies, Chief.
No problem. I think there needs to be a balance of educational programs that are on TV, but also something entertaining. We have to keep in mind that the people that are housed there, they're accused of crime. Some of them have not been convicted. Those who have been convicted shouldn't even be there. It should have been transferred to the Department of Corrections. So I think we have to have a balance. But I also believe that we have to provide other services, because some of these people need second and third chances. And you're right, education is a great way to give a second and third chance, but there's also substance abuse. There's also mental health issues. Some people need to learn a trade, and that can be an educational piece. So I think that it's important that we give people the tools that they need to be successful when they go out into these reentry programs, to make sure that they're successful. Because if they're successful when they're walking out the door, they have that education, that GED, or that some college, that they can be more successful on the outside. And when they're more successful on the outside, they're not coming back to jail.
We're out of time.
Morning, man. Look, I was a prosecutor for almost 30 years, and all over the state, and in good God, this thing's crazy. I don't need that. I don't need it, I promise. I promise I don't need it. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Look, morning, man. I was a prosecutor for almost 30 years. Some of the most heinous crimes that you can imagine. 2 serial killing cases, multiple murders. Dealt with a lot of victims over the years, guys. That's why I served on this board with her and given my time after my prosecution life, because I'm concerned about victims. Is there anybody in this audience that's concerned about victims? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to address to this audience how you feel about victims. We've heard a lot about rehabilitating the criminal, and I'm not opposed to that. I think if we're going to send them back out on the streets and we can rehabilitate them in some way that they're not recidivists, and they don't end up back on some judge's docket again and again and again, we've done a good job. What are we doing to protect the victims? That's what I want you to respond to with regard to this bill.
And please keep your answers under a minute and start with you, Sheriff, like the city council.
Yeah, so when we beefed up our victim reparations unit, we work with all of our partners in the criminal justice system who have victim services. So we service about 1,000 victims per year. This year we decided we want to concentrate on helping to bring down domestic violence, which drives up the jail population, and to really influence and bring down human trafficking. So that's been our focus for this year. But after January 1st, our victims unit had to help process all of those applications for help for the hundreds of victims of the gentleman who drove down Bourbon Street. So that was a lot. Our victim services unit, the killer, who drove down Bourbon Street, we had 2 full-time people in our victim services. I had to throw more resources into that to be able to help those folks in a timely manner. So we believe in victims' rights and we support them. Many events several times a year and complete support for our victims and survivors.
Bob.
I appreciate what you said very clearly. And I think the first thing we must do for the victim is to keep them locked down, is to keep the perpetrator where they belong. That's number one. You can hear all these cushy remarks about this education thing and this and that, but let me make this clear to you. Let me make this very clear. 90% of the people back there are going to end up being back there 5 to 7 years, and they're going to get out sooner or later. But the bottom line is the best way to help our victim is to keep their asses locked up. Thank you very much.
Judge Julie Martin.
Those of you who remember when I was on the bench, I had a reputation for giving long, harsh sentences. I was criticized. I gave out more incarceration time than Angola. I tried 52 cases, jury trials, in 1 year, including 6 first-degree murders. Some people need to be separated from society. They're sociopaths, psychopaths, dangerous, incorrigible criminals, and they need to be in jail. Not escaping from jail, not running around because they just walked out of the jail whether they had keys or not. The other thing is, victims deserve information about their case. It should come from the district attorney's office, the judiciary, and from the sheriff's office. Before a person is released, the victim should be notified. Thank you.
When I agree with my opponents, I go ahead and say I agree with my opponents. I think Bob Murray said it best. The best thing you can do for a victim is keep them locked up. I think Judge Packer said it as well. Notification. In the federal system, when an inmate is moved, the victim is notified of the movement. And there's a way to do that. You can do it electronically, or the federal system will be able to do a lot of times is mail you a postcard to let you know about the movement of the individual who's victimized you. The other thing is, the point of contact for victims matters in the city is the sheriff's office. To beef up that office and make sure that you've got qualified people as the point of contact for those individuals who have been victimized, so that they've got a qualified social worker to make sure that they have access to everything, every dollar that the state of Louisiana has put aside for them, and to make sure that if there are any services that they need, they have access to that. So that's the point of contact that we got to be able to make sure that that office runs well.
Chief Michelle.
In my current position as the Director of Forensics and Intelligence at the DA's office, we work every day to bring justice to victims. And so it's important that we not only bring them justice in the courtroom, but we also bring them justice in our office when we provide services, different things that they need, whether it's a rape victim, a family or a murder victim, whatever they need. And I think the same thing, that my colleague said, is that the ones who are committing these heinous crimes, the ones who are committing these horrible crimes, they need to be locked up. But first, in jail, if they're in jail, they haven't been convicted yet. If they've been convicted, they need to be in Angola or somewhere, or in other state facilities. So locking those up who are supposed to be locked up, that's the goal. That's what we need to do. So, and giving those victims the help that they need, and also having a real good notification system. Everyone should have known when we had this meeting.
Before we conclude the debate, I do want to thank Kyle McHenry, who is going to put this on our radio show on WRNO on the weekend of Labor Day at 8 a.m. and 5, and Bill Wallace has put it on his YouTube place at Wallace for America.
Any of the executive board, this is your downtown to ask you a question? Any executive board member, Brother Eric? Okay.
I'm going to come up and use the microphone up here, turn my back to you for a minute. There's a certain amount of jail space available in Orleans Parish Prison, but at the same time, the Sheriff's Office has periodically offered incentives by the state to house state prisoners. How do you plan on balancing the interests of allowing for available space to house prisoners in Orleans Parish and not have competition for financial incentives from the state to disrupt that? If you get competitive incentives from the state that would offset you housing prisoners convicted in Orleans Parish, how are you going to balance the interest to make sure you have space in Orleans Parish for Orleans Parish convicted people who are convicted and not be housing prisoners from the state system outside of Orleans Parish, avoiding the conflict of financial incentives from outside Orleans Parish and making sure you got space in the house?
Budget versus safety.
First of all, again, the jail is where we house those who are waiting their day, right? And so, even if there was some incentive offered by the state to house state prisoners, this jail is already overcrowded. We have to work on getting those numbers down. Sending those people who belong to the Department of Corrections transferring. We have to figure that out, and we can only do that if the court system is working. One part of the criminal justice system is clogged up or broken, it stops the entire system. So it has to be a collaboration of all the stakeholders in the criminal justice system working together to make sure that the system is fully functioning and rotating as it needs and moving along as it needs to. So I don't think it would be a part of what I would do with Sheriff is have some incentives to house anybody on this particular facility. Right now, it's already overcrowded. I'm sorry.
Constable Short.
I think we have to look at who we're actually housing and what the space is. As of now, we're sending extra folks that we've got because we're overcrowded to other parishes. So the citizens of the city of New Orleans are helping to fund the jail in St. Bernard, St. Tammany, and St. John and St. James because we decided to artificially limit the number of beds that we've got. You need more beds. NOPD is the main arresting agency. They are arresting more people than you have beds. You need the revenue from the state. You need the additional beds so that if you're housing DOC prisoners, the state will pay you. Now what you're doing is you're paying other parishes to fund their operations, and that doesn't make any sense because we set this artificial number. And you got to be realistic about the fact that it costs money to run it. Twice the citizens of the city of New Orleans have said, I don't want to pay any more money. The third time, they almost didn't renew the tax. So where are you going to get additional funding from? You're going to get additional funding from having additional beds. So I get the idea that you don't doubt it.
Judge Julie Parker.
There's only so much room in the inn. I'm not a big proponent of housing any state inmates in the parish prison. The majority of the inmates in the parish prison, pretrial detainees, these are individuals who have not been convicted of anything, but they're in jail because they didn't have the money to make bond. There are other ways that the sheriff's office can become self-sufficient. One is all of the blanket housing that the sheriff has under their care and control. In January, a house went up in flames and the next door neighbor was almost killed. And who did that house belong to? The sheriff. I've talked to real estate agents and contractors who say they'd like to go back to the system that they had in the civil sheriff's office for Paul Velto, where every Friday there was an auction. And these properties were auctioned off. That is one way that we can make money without having to count on time. Thank you.
Bob, hurry. And just don't pick up the microphone.
Okay. As your next sheriff, I mean, let's just make it very simple. Turn down the incentive. As a sheriff, you don't need the incentive. If you live within the budget that the city council proposes, that you go get every year, you go before the city council, and accept that budget and live within that budget like a household lives within that budget, we won't have that problem. You don't need state incentives to run a jail. What you need is a safe jail because you have a safe community. The extra dollars that we're talking about now, turn them down, you don't need it. And then if we come to a situation where the jail, if we get to a point where it's a real problem, how simple will it be to go before the city council and say, well, look, and be very transparent. This is the 10 million you gave me. This is where I spent it. I need some more money. Thank you.
Sheriff Caesar, that's your last word.
So, we have enough deputies. I'm at 45% staffing. When I came in, we're at 60% staffing now. So we have enough deputies to house 800 to 900 people. We have almost 1,400 in our custody. And at one point, it was 1,600. So we prioritize sending out two types of people. Those who cause havoc in the jail, we'll send them to NOLA. And we send others who are either probation or parole violators. So they're owned by the state. They're in the state's custody anyways. So we send them out, and they can be housed in any parish in the state, and we send them out, and that is on the state's dime. So we do need to continue to move people forward. For instance, Derek Rose, the mastermind of this breakout, had been convicted in December and was still in our custody. He should have been sentenced and sent to Angola. We send people within the next day or the next week, and there are 2 pickups per week by the 2 pickups per month by the Department of Corrections to take all their people to the state. So we're not holding people too long.
Okay, any other executive board member that has a question? If you have a question, executive board, ask it now. Okay? No? Okay. Now I have a question. Now, this is going to be to the incumbent, because obviously you will be becoming sheriff. Somebody's not telling me the truth. The council says that you have $15 million in reserves, and that you went to the council. I saw it. I was there. And it took the state auditor to tell you you had $15 million. Okay, so if J.P. Morrell is incorrect, please tell me.
So when I got into office, we have not done any audits in 3 years, state mandated audits. So we had to come back and do those audits and get them all caught up, and I've been able to do that. So what the auditor did is they came in and said, in this moment in time, you have this amount of money in reserves. We get so much money from the city every quarter, but you get that money in the quarter, you've got to account for all pay periods and all the bills you have to pay. That's really simple. You may have a certain amount of money in your bank at a given time. You still have to pay the people who run the jail. Food is $65,000 a week. Electricity is $150,000 a month. Those are bills you've got to pay. So you may have a given amount of money at one time, but you have all these bills to pay out. We are going to be in a deficit by the end of this year of almost $9 million. That's why the city accounts for $17 million more at last year's budget meeting. Simple accounting.
So you're basically saying that when J.P. Morrell said that he was incorrect and you don't have the reserves?
Yeah, no, we don't have that much amount in reserve. So there are two other pockets of money. There's civil court, which the city does not pay for, and they fund themselves. And that's about $2 million in that account. We have a FEMA money of about a little under $4 million that I have to pay out because there was litigation on the building of the jail and the kitchen warehouse. So that money is owed to me. So I can't spend it to pay bills, and not only that, you have to have money in reserve. You can't just spend every cent you have.
Well, no, but
there are 2 pockets of money, the civil court that goes to civil and the FEMA money.
Okay, the gentleman you defeated for election in Marlon Guthrie. Mr. Guthrie had no escapes in the new prison. Is that correct?
That's right.
Why do we have so many escapes?
We don't have so many escapes. We have one escape. this particular day because some members of our organization cut through rebar, helped loosen these toilets so they could get out of the jail. That's what happened.
Residents.
Because I don't use the term inmates, I use the term residents. Because I have First Amendment rights as well, so I speak how I want to speak. But I know this, I speak to them as if they're human beings, and I gotta deal with them. I was being actually sarcastic at that time, but you kind of went off, so I went back to calling them the killer. But we treat people with respect because guess what? We have to live with them for 2, 5, 7, 9 years. So we treat them with respect because if we don't, they're going to hurt our deputies. You live in that jail, you'd understand that.
The jail.
You worked in there? Oh, okay. They got to be on shift with me for 12 hours per day. And for years,
those people on the fourth floor.
we have a classification system, which is run by part of the consent judgment. And so you have to move people when they say they have, well, I'm not going to give all the reasons that you may have to move. It's a security issue. But you have to move people under that classification system when there's an issue to move them. So one of the parts of the investigation is exactly why Groves was there, not the others, but Groves, as to why he was there. And we're trying to find out exactly how he did end up there. It could have been a manipulation, we don't know.
You did have the subject that removed the toilet and the basin. He was arrested, correct?
He's not the mastermind, he's not the main person. He may have done a little something, but there were plenty others who helped. And so we are going to hold all of them accountable. There's a couple of more who I think are going to be being arrested soon. But that investigation, and you have to connect the dots.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I think my wife, hi. I'm Chaplain Henry. I'm a new member on the executive board. My question is, it has been proven time after time that when you give prisoners a spiritual program, it has a huge impact on their lives and their reintroduction into society. I was a jail chaplain, prison chaplain on the North Shore for 10 years. I saw it happen. You know what Warden Kane did at Angola, which is an amazing story. Y'all have any plans or thoughts about it? What are your plans, Doctor?
Absolutely. I'm grounded by my spiritual beliefs, and I believe that prayer changes everything. And so I think, even though these people are accused of different crimes, from misdemeanors to felonies, I think that is a way to create a change in them, to have spiritual leaders come in and talk to them. Understand right now, a friend of mine, her dad is a practicing Muslim, and there are some practicing Muslims that are held inside of OJC. And he brought them mass, all of those things, but yet they have not let him inside to pray with these people. And so I think it's very, very important that every religion that people want to see a different spirituality, that they believe in different spiritual attitudes and stuff like that, they should be let inside the prison so they can have some spiritual time.
Constable, back up and short.
Yes, I think they should have access to whatever faith that they are a part of. If they want to see a priest, an imam, a rabbi, I don't have a problem with that. I think that helps keep violence down in the jail by giving them that outlet. So I think that is something that is practiced consistently across this nation. I don't see, and I'm not necessarily sure that Sheriff Hudson is not doing that currently, but I think if she weren't doing that, I would institute that or we would continue doing whatever programs that she's got, but I want them to have access to their faith-based beliefs.
I've met with a couple of prison chaplains, including the rabbi. And everyone should have the opportunity while incarcerated to exercise their right to religion, but it shouldn't be forced on them. Those who don't want to participate have a constitutional right not to participate. But I really do believe that faith-based programs help arouse, cut down on violence, and these are things that are known facts. This is just not something I'm telling you or something that I've researched. And you'll be surprised how many people can come out a better person for the experience. Thank you very much.
Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe faith plays a very important role in all of our lives, one way or another. I believe that any penal institution, no matter where it's at, should have an outlet for any individual's religious beliefs and their faith. So I, as your sheriff, will definitely make any religion that that person belongs to available, and that should be something without even asking. I'm a very faithful person myself, and God has brought me this far, and I've come this far by faith. Thank you.
Sheriff,
Like my opponents, my faith is a big part of everything I do, but running for sheriff was an act of faith to help people get to a better life, and that's what I'm trying to do every day. We have a chaplaincy program. It's vibrant. It works. We just did a massive baptism ceremony last month, so we allow that to happen. We do allow in some religious equipment, some rugs, there's some bands that are used in the Jewish religion, some things we can't bring in because they're a safety issue. But we look at them all individually and assess them and screen them and then make that decision. But we absolutely have service in the jail regularly.
I want to thank all the candidates for Sheriff. Let's give them all a big round of applause.